Thanks for joining us on 9 News Plus. I'm Chris Bianchi. On Thursday, May 11th, a controversial U.S.-Mexico border policy is set to expire. Title 42 goes back to the Trump administration, and it was a key tool for American public officials to turn back migrants on the border. Title 42 was first implemented during the pandemic for public health reasons. That is now ending with the end of the public health emergency. Joining us for a bit more about this is immigration attorney Belen Albuja from Albuja Law Firm here in Denver. Belen, thanks for taking the time to join us here today.
Thanks for the invitation. It's such an important topic.
Yes, it certainly is. And for a bit more of a background, can you explain why Title 42 is being allowed to expire here on Thursday, May the 11th?
Well, it's been proved that Title 14 was not legally binding. The United States needs to comply with international conventions and also with the immigration federal law. Title 42 was triggered due to the COVID pandemic and as a way of preventing the COVID into the United States. As we know, that was not enough prevention. It's more complicated than that. We're still in COVID times. After several federal litigation, finally, the Title 42 is going to be, we're going to see the ending of that era. That has been really complicated, not only to immigrants, but mostly for the legal federal system when we're talking about immigration.
So when it comes to what you just mentioned there, Belen, where Title 42 is not legally binding, is that on American law? Is that on international law? Where are the challenges to this coming from?
First, internally, of course, federal law. Immigration is a federal law. And Title 42 was triggered by a national security importance that, of course, is a priority in our country. I say our country because I'm also a naturalized American citizen, as many immigrants are. So I understand that the priority is to take care of our land. But at the same time, Title 42 was implemented thinking that was going to be a prevention to stop COVID of coming to the United States. We cannot control nature, as you know, and that's why Title 42 was not successful with COVID, and it triggered more complications rather than benefits to the United States.
So it sounds like in general here that it was basically used in the last couple of years perhaps as an excuse to give public authorities a bit more leverage, I suppose, when it comes to stopping migrants from coming across the border. So specifically, what does Title 42's expiration on Thursday mean for migrants who are trying to cross the border?
I think we can talk about three meanings. Legally, Title 42 or the ending of Title 42 means legally that we conquer the process again. However, in practice, the current administration is following with a different demeanor the steps by the President Trump that he did before. Why? Because although Title 42 is not going to be longer implemented, the safe third country policy is not helping people that really have asylum cases. At the same time, the ending of Title 42 just implement in the United States the possibility of remember our roots as American citizens. We're a country of immigrants, and before the same thing happened with asylum seekers coming from the Soviet Union, in some point from Arabic countries as well, and Cuba and so on. Now it happened to be people from Latin America. The problem is that legally it's a huge winning situation, but it won't last a long time because the logistic of taking away Title 42 has been implemented a really hard procedure for those asylum seekers. Seeking asylum outside of the United States for the real asylum seekers will be really dangerous.
Yes, no doubt about that. I will say this, a lot of pushback is coming mainly from a lot of Republican officials across the southern United States. And I'll quote Texas Governor Greg Abbott, what he said on Monday, May the 8th, about the expiration of Title 42. He said it would be, quote, it would cause a catastrophic disaster, end quote, at the border. Based on what you know legally, do you anticipate the potential for a flood of migrants to come across the border and continue to enhance some of the issues that have been going on out that way?
I think that legally it's time to realize that the problem is not only at the border. The United States needs to have a legal system that works. Within the borders, in the United States, we have millions of parents that have U.S. citizen children that are waiting for a chance to have legalization in this country. At the same time, legally, a lot of asylum seekers are coming with tourist visas, but we don't talk too much about it. The point that is all obviously, realistically speaking, is coming to the news, the videos about people coming to the border. It just presents the issue to the American citizen and is more real. But this has been happening for many decades. It's nothing new. The problem right now is that because of the implementation of Title 42 many years ago when the COVID started, this is just a consequence of that implementation. So right now, all the asylum seekers that we have at the border are here because of course, economic problems that are happening in Latin America, but it's also a consequence of what happened during COVID.
Belen, is it safe to characterize Title 42, correct me if I'm wrong here, essentially as a BandAid for essentially what both sides of the aisle would describe as a broken immigration system in terms of the laws and the kind of lack of laws and lack of implementation? But was Title 42 essentially used as, again, a BandAid to essentially stop or push on the issue of immigration?
And that is my personal opinion. I think it was an excuse to sell the story to the American citizens that immigrants are not coming to the United States. They are coming. We are coming because we have family here, and the law allows us to bring our families here, like it's been happening for decades. And also, there are really people, like communities, that needs to rely in this law. Not only the federal law of the United States, but the international conventions. We have people from Afghanistan. We have people from Ukraine. There is something that distinguishes the United States from other countries, and that is the legal system that is presented to everybody, regardless of where you're from or what is your situation. That is the big difference that we have in our country. So Title 42, unfortunately, it makes things even worse.
I suppose what resources, legal resources, are there for migrants, immigrants trying to seek asylum in the United States? Are there free or reduced price ones available for those migrants?
There are, but unfortunately the numbers are just keep increasing, and there is not enough pro bono lawyers or non-profit organizations. This is a bigger problem because at the same time we have a lot of people from other parts of the world facing terrible situations of war. The main problem right now is not only have access to legal advice, but the immigration legal system is totally different than the criminal legal system in the United States, where you have a public defender. When you are facing immigration court, you don't have a public defender. You have yourself as an immigrant. Only imagine somebody coming after the Second World War that had to hire an attorney, a private attorney, without having $1 in the package. It's the same scenario, only in 2023.
Well, certainly quite the scenario. Anything else, Belen, that we've missed about the expiration of Title 42 on Thursday and what it means for the U.S., for Colorado?
I think it's time to have some empathy. The legal system is complicated. The immigration system triggers a lot of emotions. I think we're far from finding a solution, but we have a lot of American citizens When I came to this country 20 years ago, I didn't know that I was going to speak Spanish the whole day in Colorado. Now that is my normal life in the United States. So I think we need to have a little bit more empathy and respect of the diversity of this country and understand that these are issues that are not that simple to solve. So I'm just asking for empathy because maybe our grandparents, our parents, or even our grandparents have the same journey, just different geographic situations.
Empathy, good in every situation, it seems like, in particular with what we're talking about here. But Belén Albuja from the Albuja Law Firm here in Denver, we appreciate a few minutes of your time in explaining the expiration of Title 42 and what it means for the migrants and what it potentially means for America and for, frankly, the world as well. So thank you so much for taking the time to join us here today.
Thank you so much.